Buddy, thank you for joining us today. Look, it's Microsoft Ignite. We went to the Ignite team. We said, we're a gaming company. We need some gaming content at Ignite. And this is one of our 2 sessions we're going to have covering the game space. Raise your hand, show of hands if you're a gamer, play games, have played games in your life. I see every hand up, which I should because if you play board games or Candy Crush or whatever the games are, you're a gamer. But thanks everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate it. My name is Jon Kefaloukos. I go by Fallout in the gaming industry. Not because of the game, but because I was 13 playing Halo and I thought it sounded cool. But I was a former professional gamer, stopped competing, and started shoutcasting. So I'm a streamer on Twitch and involved in the game space. But for the past 10 years, I've been working at Microsoft as well. Microsoft by day, kind of gaming, esports industry by night. Dan?
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Dan Gartner. I'm an Azure App Innovation Specialist for Microsoft. I work in the field. I work with different enterprises, and I help them build AI applications. The last couple of years, I've been super focused on the gaming industry, but I've been with Microsoft almost 18 years now, entirely focused on working with developers.
And then I told Dan we need to get him over into the game space because this guy knows his stuff. So Dan's going to be leading some demos today, some cool demos and scenarios, real-life scenarios of game companies that are using Azure AI Foundry and building various copilots to either help develop games or to ship in-game experiences, which is pretty cool. So that's the name of the game today. Very short, quick agenda. We'll do a quick intro, just our high-level gaming at Azure strategy, how we think about the space all up. And then we'll jump into to AI. We'll share our vision for building and operating games in Azure, and then we'll jump into AI use cases for gaming. That's going to be probably the predominant focus today, because it's a pretty cool topic, and the game space is changing really fast. Not only is it changing fast, but it's just getting harder and harder. People don't realize how difficult game development is, especially in 2024. File sizes are getting bigger, assets are getting higher quality, higher fidelity. And it's almost a beautiful song and dance to bring together the best of audio, video, silicon, graphics, engineering, and software development into one experience. It's really hard to ship games nowadays. The reason we kind of built this Gaming at Azure initiative is to help change that, and hopefully so Microsoft can show up as a partner. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this and change our company mission, but this is our kind of Gaming at Azure vision: empower every person and every game developer on the planet to achieve more, alongside every organization, of course, as well. But y'all have seen probably a version of this slide a couple times this week. This is our highest level overview of all Microsoft commercial solution areas. And it's also relevant for gaming, highly relevant for gaming, actually. We have world-class infrastructure, world-class data, AI services, world-class modern work collaboration tools to help with distributed and remote game development, sharing high-quality video and assets, all wrapped around great security and also with business applications, low-code, no-code, to help you, end-to-end, not only build games, but also market and promote games as well and run a business. That's kind of our highest level vision and strategy. And this summarizes it pretty well as well. We're very fortunate to have this small organization called Xbox and our Microsoft gaming organization led by Phil Spencer. And we are one of the largest gaming companies in the world. Almost every Xbox title runs many, many services on Azure. So they push Azure to the limits. They battle test Azure to make Azure a great cloud for game scenarios. And obviously, we're not perfect. We're getting better every single day because gaming scenarios are so bleeding edge. But we're really fortunate to have our partners over at Xbox to help us every single day. Speaking of Xbox, I'd be remiss to not show Azure PlayFab, which is, I'm just going to breeze through this quickly, but we're going to be focused more on the kind of commercial core Azure side. But Azure PlayFab is a service owned and operated by our Xbox organization in partnership with Azure, and it gives you an end-to-end tool chain for building games, which is pretty awesome. Multiplayer game servers, database solutions that connect into the Microsoft ecosystem, leaderboards, so many more things under the Azure PlayFab services. These kind of 6, 7, 8 pillars define Azure PlayFab pretty well. And they've been working very, very hard. This is an outdated slide, but integration into Fabric and Azure Synapse and Azure AI. So our PlayFab team is amazing. We love partnering with our PlayFab organization led by Kevin Gamble. But moving over to the traditional kind of core Azure side, this is really our Gaming at Azure vision and strategy. It's really these 4 kind of core scenarios in game dev with Azure and Azure OpenAI. Studio in the cloud, game hosting, game services hosting, game servers, game analytics, and AI in gaming. And this slide here puts it together in kind of an architecture design built by our lead gaming architect, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗀𝗫, who is amazing. This is our kind of left to right, end-to-end strategy. On the far left there, you'll see obviously shift left, game development in the cloud, studio in the cloud, and the largest box there with your game dev workstations running in Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365 with GPUs enabled for game dev scenarios, artifacts, storage, networking, all the kind of Azure infrastructure plumbing. Your source code management, P4 is Perforce. Perforce is the predominant source control management solution used in the gaming and media and entertainment industry, but obviously integration and a close partnership with Azure DevOps and GitHub. We announced a large Perforce partnership a few years back, and a lot of good engineering work being done on that front. Your build farms, and then Cloud Dev Kits, you'll see, is obviously an asterisk. We currently don't have Cloud Dev Kits in Azure, but that's a big part of the conversation as well, with some conversations happening. AI in gaming, you layer on AI services to help with that workflow, to basically make your game teams more productive and shipping faster. We're going to talk about that pillar today. And then game servers, game services, and what happens when you put all of that in one cloud. You're not constantly distributing and shifting data builds from one cloud to another or from on-prem to Azure. If you can do all of this in one cloud end-to-end, you can achieve quite a bit of cost savings and efficiency gains as well without having to pay for egress and things like that. And then if you put it all in Fabric with our connector and mirroring ecosystem, you can get really rich build telemetry, player telemetry, insights, which is obviously important to fuel changes to your game. This is our end-to-end strategy for gaming at Azure. But shifting gears here over to AI in gaming, which is the main focus of this conversation. And again, some cool scenarios. We'll focus on that AI in gaming pillar, which is highlighted there on screen. And here's a couple of use cases that have popped up. Many of these are real use cases we're seeing game teams around the world shipping today. It's pretty awesome to see how fast they've built on top of the Azure AI stack. GitHub Copilot, of course, for developer efficiency, and then engineering system copilots. That's a really big topic right now. Fixing broken builds, test automation, provisioning environments, a lot to help make sure you have clean code and help along the way. And then Help Desk Copilot as well for IT help desk scenarios. Content creation, this is a really exciting one. Our goal is to empower artists, to give them tools that help them do their job better. A lot of other really, really cool content creation copilots. In-engine copilots, Unity Muse shipped. Muse is an AI tool built on Azure OpenAI that was shipped a couple months ago, very recently. Localization translation is obviously awesome for accessibility. Player support, new player copilots to help improve retention, because that's a difficult thing. People power up Game Pass, they play a game, they get lost or stuck, and they don't play the game anymore. How can we change that? If you're stuck on Doom Eternal or a certain level, how can we help you get unstuck? That's a really cool scenario. Social media analysis, this is everything. Community managers that I've talked to, I used to be a community manager for the Gears of War franchise, love this. The ability to really quickly index data and info from Discord, Twitter or X, and other social channels, communities, forums, to understand Reddit, of course, is obviously a big place for that, to understand what feedback people have for the game, to quickly make changes. And then a support assistant, that's a big one. Customer service support scenarios to help with automating processes like password resets for accounts. The amount of times I get contacted by friends and family saying, can you help fix my kid's Xbox Live account? I'm like, I am not Xbox support, but it's awesome to see the support scenarios that help with that. And then perhaps the most powerful and the most exciting frontier, in-game experiences. I think we're just really at the very beginning of that journey, but some amazing things are happening with our Xbox partnership with InWorld. We have an Xbox organization led by Fatima and 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗻, who are building a whole kind of suite of solutions and looking at AI for gaming scenarios, things like NPC dialogue, interactions, experiences. The important thing here is it can't be kludgy. Like the experience has to be great. If you're talking to an NPC powered by ChatGPT 4.0 or 5.3.5, it has to be responsive. It has to feel like a real character in the game. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we're working really closely with our Office of the CTO and a variety of entities at Microsoft and a couple game companies for scenarios like that. In-game copilots for player assistance. That's different than the new player copilot for retention, but imagine things like you're playing Fortnite or Apex Legends, a battle royale, or PUBG, and you're a noob. You're stuck in the ring and you don't know where to go, how to rotate. Copilot comes in and says, move towards the circle, or use this button to heal. Those type of kind of real-time copilots for assistance, I think, are really cool. Text, chat, voice translation, and content moderation are some other scenarios as well. So I know I spent some time there, but these are really all kind of real, fun, transformational scenarios that can change gaming entirely, and obviously building games with AI as well, which Dan's going to show, I think, a little bit later. You've seen this slide a million times this week as well. but this is how we look at our kind of Copilot stack and how we help game developers and game companies. On the far left, you can adopt ready-made Copilots for business functions. Copilot for Microsoft 365. It's amazing how easy it is to make a game design document in Word. Believe it or not, Word for me has become the hero product for M365 and gaming. You go into Word, you say, I have an idea for a game, draft me a game design document, what should I consider, what should I think? And it gives you an awesome place to start and tweak, and how quick you can get to charters or game design documents with Copilot in Microsoft 365 is amazing. And then obviously the rest of the stack as well. I won't go into detail. You can extend Copilots with Copilot Studio into really important workflows and tooling in the game space like Jira, Confluence, and obviously IT scenarios like ServiceNow. There's a really good extensibility story you guys have seen this week at Ignite with agents and things that you can build on top of Copilot on the stack. And then we highlight it in blue because this is really the exciting part, building custom Copilots end-to-end using Azure AI Foundry and all of the tools. We believe in an OpenAI platform, an OpenAI ecosystem, lowercase o in that context. And we believe in providing you the LLMs, the SLMs, the tools you need to build your own experiences. And game companies are going crazy. You know, the game space predominantly was really, really heavy in using AWS. But now it's pretty awesome how many new instances of Azure are spinning up just for Azure AI Foundry. A lot of really exciting kind of hardcore game devs, ML researchers that are doing some really fascinating things with our Azure AI toolkit and access to models like Mistral, OpenAI, Llama, et cetera. Dan's going to go a lot deeper on that topic. All right, cool. Okay, a little bit of a tech issue, but yeah, this is a more detailed version of that. I love this slide. Kind of tells you and helps you understand when should you use Copilot for M365 and Copilot Studio in M365. When should you use Copilot Studio standalone to kind of extend low-code AI chatbots? And then when should you use Azure AI Foundry? This is a good slide that just helps explain that. I won't spend too much time here. So with that, I'll pass it over to my friend Dan to dive deeper into Azure AI Foundry, and now it's time for demos. Enough of us talking heads.
Yeah, before we jump into the demos, I just want to kind of mention Azure AI Foundry. You've probably heard a ton about it this week at Ignite, but it is the platform for game developers, game service developers to build AI applications and to infuse AI into existing applications. It's really your one-stop developer shop, right? There's the model catalog. You probably heard 100 times this week that there's over 1,800 models. There's the foundation models, OpenAI models, task-specific models, and all those sorts of things that you can deploy to your own tenant. So we're going to spend a bunch of time in AI Foundry and show you how you can use it for game dev use cases. But on the left here, there's developer tools, right? So Copilot Studio could be a great option for building maybe an internal IT support chatbot. We're going to walk through GitHub Copilot and how game devs can use GitHub Copilot for even languages like C++ to accelerate the amount of time, the time it takes to build their games, right? So this is really the developer ecosystem. We're not going to dive super deep into it today, but at the bottom of this, you're going to need, if you're going to adopt Gen AI, content safety, observability, evaluation, continuous CI/CD, and all those sorts of things as well. And with that, it's very easy to implement with Azure AI Foundry and the latest Azure AI Foundry SDKs. So this is really core to a lot of the things that we're going to be showing today. I do want to mention this, right? This is super critical for gaming customers, our gaming studios that are using Azure, because they're so focused on their IP, right? And so it's critical to know that if you're using Azure AI, Azure OpenAI, the different AI services, right? We don't train the models on your data. The instance is deployed to your tenant. Your data is private and secure. You can deploy it to your own private network. You can have total control over all the data, all the indexes, and those sorts of things. So it's just critical for us to line this up. This is the first topic that comes up when we're discussing AI with any game studio. So I just want to reiterate this because I'm sure you've seen this before during Ignite. So just kind of to double click on that, your data is not available to other customers. It's not available to OpenAI. This is your own private instance. It's not used to train the models. It's not used to improve any other third-party services or products. The fine-tuned models that you create, those are your models, right? So we just got to hash that out up front and then we can get productive and start building games and game services with Azure AI Foundry. So we got a bunch of demos that we want to walk through. These are what we're going to show. We're going to show a couple scenarios with creating a custom game copilot. That's an interesting use case. Like, I want an assistant chatbot that can help my gamers, new gamers, become familiar with the game. And maybe I want to connect it to voice or something like that. Maybe we want to expose that on a website. Maybe we want to expose it via API to our game itself. So we're going to talk about a couple custom gaming copilot scenarios. We're going to show GitHub Copilot. We're going to show how GitHub Copilot can write game code for us and help us write game code. And it does all sorts of great things. Like, you can have it explain your code base. With the new workspace extension, it can answer questions about an entire code base and not just a few files. So this is something that we're seeing a lot of uptake with game developers as well, so we're going to spend time there. Unity, an awesome game dev platform. They've done some super interesting things with Gen AI, and this is early days, but we're going to show some of the tooling that they put directly in their editor with Unity Muse, which is awesome. And then some of the IT scenarios. We're going to walk through an error resolution bot. Every single studio and non-gaming enterprise customer of mine has said, hey, it would be great if we could use AI to automatically resolve production errors or build errors and those sorts of things. So we're gonna look at that, and then some of the other scenarios that Jon talked about: sentiment detection, NPC dialogue, using AI to dig into your player telemetry. Those are all other scenarios that we're going to show you today. For our first demo, as we kick this off, Jon, do you want to describe what we're about to show?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mentioned it, I think, at the top. My background, I was a professional Gears of War player back in the day and played Halo, but recently I've been all in Apex Legends. I love Apex Legends. I used to be a shoutcaster at the Apex Legends Global Series, still very involved in the community. But Apex is a very, very difficult game. The skill ceiling is really, really high, and a lot of people play and get owned and never want to play again. So I actually tweeted a couple months ago and asked the community, hey, who are the best YouTube content creators that make awesome tips and tricks videos? There's some amazing people out there. I want to give love to them. I want to understand who's out there. And I got sent a bunch of different content creators on YouTube. And Dan and I spent 3 hours in the office and built what we call 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗏, an Apex Legends chatbot, which even me as an advanced, pretty good Apex Legends player, I've learned things from daily. Let's show you how it works. You're good. Thank you, Dan. Awesome. So imagine this is obviously a text-based Copilot chatbot. But imagine, like Dan said, you could do some wiring to hook in voice with ChatGPT and voices, to hook in actually in engine and in the game. So imagine a scenario where you boot into the new player onboarding experience in a game, like Gears of War, Halo, Apex Legends, and rather than going through a generic tutorial, this is how you press, you actually can interact with a character who can answer questions and get deeper than press A to jump. What can you do? It's a bot in Apex Legends. What are some advanced tips and tricks I should know? First question, I don't want to be a noob, I want to learn things. And immediately, it will, based on the fact that we grounded this with all this YouTube content, you'll see cliff notes here that can link back to that YouTube channel, so you're promoting content creators and surfacing their content, obviously with their permission, but this is a private bot that we turn off after this demo. But you'll see a bunch of really good information. Practice armor swapping, it's a super advanced tactic. Finish knocked enemies to farm damage on your badge. Optimize healing with double shield cells, et cetera, et cetera. When playing certain characters, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Valkyrie seems cool. You can combine climbing with her jetpack to avoid getting beamed. Tell me more about Valkyrie. Valkyrie's a character. She's a ton of fun. And then you jump in, and you can get deep, deep information about Valkyrie. Oh, that's a character I want to main. That's a character I want to play. That's really, really cool. This is really good. There's also things you can do, obviously, for game devs, like they don't want you saying this. Talk to me about Jet from Valorant. Not Apex Legends, and game teams want to make sure that these things don't go haywire. And boom, we've made sure to kind of ground this bot to say you are only an Apex Legends chatbot. You won't talk about other games, because obviously that's a TTD. If anyone knows that acronym, I'm not going to say it out loud here, but it's from Mythic Quest, the TV show. That is a scary thing in game development. So you got to make sure that this thing is grounded and is not going to go haywire on you as well. So yeah, quick, fast demo. But imagine this being built into your game experience. It's a character you can interact with. You put voice to it. especially with what's happening by 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's team, our head of Windows, with on-device NPUs. You could see where we're headed as a company to be able to do a lot of that reasoning on device, plus with cloud services mixed in as well.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So I want to show you really quick how we built this. It took, like he said, 2 hours. It's actually pretty trivial to build with AI Foundry's developer playgrounds. It's really just a couple things. You define a system prompt, and it doesn't have to be much in this case. We just basically said, hey, you're 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, you're an AI assistant that helps people find information about the game. We grounded it on a bunch of resources about Apex. And that took just a couple of minutes. We were able to kind of get transcripts from videos and other online resources and those sorts of things and ingest them into Azure AI Search. And that was the easiest thing ever. You just get a bunch of files, you add them to a new index, and it automatically creates a vector database for you, an embedding model, and you're done. Right, so it's super easy.
Obviously, important disclaimer, I work for Microsoft, not EA. This is not an EA thing. This is me as a community member. But you can see the power here. Like, when you empower your community, it's insane what people have done with R6 and Source and like hacked mod versions of games. When you can give your community resources like this to kind of build experiences to help with onboarding, put those tools in the power of the players in the community. And I'm an example as a passionate community member that wants to make Apex Legends better. But disclaimer, I do not work for EA, and this is not an EA-endorsed message. I want to make sure to get that out there.
All right. And then there's this checkbox, limit my responses to my data content. So with AI Foundry, it was very easy to ground this particular AI assistant, this custom Copilot, on our data. And then to deploy it as a web application, it really was just a click. And I could, if I wanted to, deploy this as a Teams application or deploy it to Copilot Studio. So super easy to get started, super easy to build a sort of custom Copilot AI assistant using Azure AI Foundry. So that's the first thing that we wanted to show. Creating a custom Copilot for that new player experience. Next, let's look at actual game development with GitHub Copilot. How can GitHub Copilot help us accelerate our game development? And so let's take a look at a sample that I have here. This is a C++ Tetris game. I've opened it up in VS Code, and I'm using GitHub Copilot Chat just to ask questions about it. I'm new to this. I've never used it before. I've never interacted with this particular code base. And so I can ask Copilot, what does this do? And it gives me a high-level description, saying this is a Tetris game written in C++. There's different Tetris blocks, all that sort of stuff. This is how we implement collision detection. I can start asking questions about the code base. And what I'm using here is the new workspace extension. This allows me to ask questions about the entire code base, not just one particular file, right? And so I can say, where are the colors defined? And it's going to point me directly to that particular code file. So I can ask questions about, just general questions. I can ask it to explain this code file, and it's going to give me a summary of what, this particular one, main.cpp is doing, and it walks through everything. It says, all right, we were doing initialization, we're doing front loading, we're creating game objects, and this is what's going on in the main game loop. This is how we're drawing. And it's giving me a really good description for what's going on. So I can easily jump into the code base, figure out what's going on, explore with GitHub Copilot. So I want to enhance this application. So I can say, hey, I want to add a new block to Tetris. By default, there's no U-shaped block. I want to add a new block shaped like a U. And so it's going to tell me how to do that. I haven't written C++ in 20 years. So I'm going to go ahead and lean on GitHub Copilot to help me enhance this application. I click this button. I click Apply in Editor. And it's going to add that code to my file. Now, that was user error, though. I didn't want to add that to main.cpp. So I can go and I can click discard that particular change. It's called Copilot. It's not pilot. And then I'm going to go to the correct file. I'm going to say insert at cursor, and it's going to create a new block that's shaped like a U, right? Great. And then it also tells me what line of code I need to modify to add that, to add the U block to the collection of blocks that are going to be displayed in this particular Tetris game. So I do that, and then I can go ahead and compile my application, and we've enhanced Tetris. We'll see it run. We should eventually see a U-shaped block, and that was because we used GitHub Copilot to help us write the code. There should be a U-shaped block. There it is, the next block coming up. So you can use GitHub Copilot to help build games. This is just a simple example, a 2D Tetris game. John, should we do it?
I guess we can do it. So I mentioned them a shoutcaster, which is the most ridiculous word. If you guys ever watch like an esport, raise your hand if you watched an esports tournament before, League of Legends, Championship, Rocket League. These people literally scream, shout while they're broadcasting the game. Dan's like, John, would you be down to shoutcast me playing Tetris? Are you going to play yourself, or is it the video of it personally?
We've switched over. I'm going to play. And John, we can't miss this opportunity. We have a shoutcaster.
Oh, gosh.
Never at a tech conference has anyone shoutcasted somebody playing Tetris. So
never has anyone shoutcasted the game Tetris.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. And I want you to go nuts when you see one of those U blocks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Jon Kefaloukos, also known as Fallout here, ready to bring you the action. On board right now with Dan Gartner, one of the worst Tetris players in the history of the world. But so far, off to a good start here. Green block's going to drop. Looks like a blue one. I'm really excited for the U-shaped block. That's going to be a significant moment. The U-shaped meta is the meta right now.
Woo!
And there it is. The crowd goes crazy. The U-shaped block connects, and he completed his GitHub Copilot demo. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Dan Gartner here.
All right. Can't believe we did that. But we did it.
They said, bring gaming content to Ignite. We said we will try our best.
We're going to do it.
Yeah. Bunch of IT people. Of course we should have gaming content. It's like not even a thing.
All right, so that was GitHub Copilot. Next, I want to talk about Unity Muse, which is pretty amazing. So Unity, it's a game development platform. There's a game engine. There's an awesome editor. They have a whole bunch of services that they provide to game developers. And recently, they've created a set of services called Unity Muse. And you can use Gen AI directly in the Unity editor. There's a few different interfaces for it. There's Unity Chat. So you can ask questions about your Unity project. You can ask questions about the Unity engine. You can ask it, how do I do these sorts of things? How do I interact with the editor? It really saves time for game developers. It also does content creation, which is really awesome. So it'll generate 3D textures for you based on a prompt. It'll generate 2D sprites for you based on a prompt. It'll generate behaviors and animations for you based on a prompt. So we would be remiss to not show this, because this is like cutting edge sorts of things where they've actually brought these capabilities directly to the editor. So I just want to show you a couple quick demos here. This is Muse Chat. And so what's going on here, this is the Unity editor, and I've added the Muse Chat extension to it. And I'm able to ask questions about how to do things with the Unity game engine. So I'm asking about collision and those sorts of things, and it's going to give me responses and sources and that sort of stuff. I can ask a question, how do I remap the jump button for my character? And it's going to tell me exactly how to do that. Go to the input manager, find the jump input, make this change. And so I'm not a Unity game developer, but it really it's going to help new people become very productive very quickly. And it's also super useful for experienced game developers, right? So I can ask questions about a particular asset that I have, in my folder. So I dragged an asset to it, and I said, describe this sprite, and it gave me a description. And then I can ask, other questions. How do I zoom in on the editor? So you can ask questions about the editor. You can ask questions about the game engine. You can have it give you code samples, right? And so tools like this are really kind of game changer tools that are improving the developer productivity for anyone using Unity. They also have the ability, what we're going to show next, is you can generate sprites. So this is content creation. So there's a sprite generator in Unity Muse as well. And so I've got a prompt here. I'm feeling festive. It's snowing outside. Hopefully everyone got a chance to enjoy the Chicago winter weather this morning. And so I'm asking it, hey, generate a Christmas tree. Make it colorful, right? And so, OK, it's going to start musing. And it's going to generate a few different Christmas trees for me. And it's using Gen AI to do this. right? So this is sprite creation. If I want to keep one, I just click on it. I add it to my workspace, and I could drag it to my scene. In Bingo Bango, I have enhanced this 2D application using generative AI. I just kind of resize it and update the aspect ratio. I'm feeling very festive, so I'm going to just copy-paste a bunch of these trees into my application. And so we're using Gen AI to create 2D assets in this case. Like I said, there's other things that you can use it for, 3D textures, that sort of stuff. And then let's just show the gameplay. So if I click the play button, now my character is going to be running around the scene, and we've got those Christmas trees planted into the Unity scene.
That doesn't look like a fun game, though, Dan.
Do you want to shoutcast this one?
No, we're good.
All right, we're good on. All right, cool.
Actually, it does look like a fun game. I take it back.
I know, it's awesome.
I thought you were just bouncing back and forth between the trees, but
Actually, Muse has a case study with us, right? So you can learn about how they built these capabilities into Muse Chat. It's a really interesting case study using Azure OpenAI, using Azure Kubernetes, and those different Azure services to create their own Gen AI services.
So Dan, real quick, with 14 minutes left, if it's okay, quick pulse check, guys. Is content good? Thumbs up, thumbs side. I want to make sure. I see thumbs ups. All right, cool. Because we want more gaming content at Ignite next year. And I think there's a survey where you judge us. I want to make sure everyone's good. Okay, thanks, y'all.
All right. Let's take a look at a few more demo scenarios.
Let's do it.
All right. So this next one, this is a common use case that comes up. I want to infuse my game lore into an AI copilot, right? This might be something useful internally to a game studio. You might have tons of wikis out there, tons of documentation, tons of PDFs with information about your games. You want to infuse all of that to a central location and then have like an easy interface to get access to it, right? And so we hear about this a lot.
So is the gruff and terse bartender one?
No, this one's Conquer 1066.
Okay, then do the gruff and terse one later.
We'll do that one. That's NPC. So in this scenario, I used AI to create a game and a game website. So this game is Conquer 1066. Really, all I want to do is I want to create a custom copilot for this game that can answer questions about it, right? And so that website had FAQs. It had play instructions for that particular game. And I want to create a custom chatbot or a custom copilot that can answer questions, that knows about that game. I want to infuse my game lore into AI. And so we are using Azure AI Foundry. We're using the chat playground. You'll see I'm asking it a question: what missions are available in Conquer 1066? It has no idea about my game, right? It has no idea. It's kind of hallucinating a little bit, right? And so what we want to do is we want to ground this on our game lore. We want to ground this on all of our game information. So super easy. We just click on Add Your Data. There's all sorts of different ways that you can add your own custom data to Azure AI Foundry. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to point to a URL, and it's going to index that site for me, right? And so I go here. I pop the URL into this Select Your Data screen. I click Next. I pick an Azure AI search service. And then it's going to do all of the indexing for me. It's going to create a new index. I can configure when it reindexes. It's going to create an embedding model for me. And we're going to be good to go. So this is how we can very easily implement the RAG pattern on top of our own data. And this is the pattern for creating an AI chatbot against your game lore. And so now I run the index operation. It's going to ingest everything into that index. And once that's done, now I'm able to ask questions about my game. So we've built a custom copilot for this game using Azure AI Foundry. So I ask a couple of questions. What missions are available in Conquer 1066? Boom. I get them. It knows about it now. It gives me references. Here's the different missions for the game. I can even ask gameplay questions as well. How do I view inventory? And that tells me, all right, press the I key. Right? So now we've created a custom copilot that knows about our game. This is how you can infuse all your game lore. How do I use this in an application? If I click the View Code button, boom, these are the APIs that I call. It gives me an example of how to connect to that AI search index and implement the RAG pattern to send that to my AI model as well. So a really simple developer experience.
Awesome.
How are we doing on time?
That's a good question. We got 10 minutes.
All right.
We're doing good on time.
Rock and roll.
This is the broken bug one?
This is broken build one.
Okay. I should do NPC. Do you guys want to see IT, like broken build stuff, or do you guys want to see an NPC demo? Yeah, pretty unanimous, NPC.
NPC.
Yeah, NPC makes more sense. Yeah, this is one of the coolest scenarios. I mean, just imagine, like, this is a very basic version of that, but just imagine a world where this gets better and better when we have NPUs running in Copilot plus PCs on Windows. So it's not really expensive to do things like this. It is fascinating where this space is headed. We don't have an in-world demo, so we're not going to represent our Xbox organization, who I mentioned earlier, are doing great work in partnership with in-world in similar spaces. But you can actually build your own NPC character and implement it into a game yourself using Azure AI Foundry, and Dan's going to show it.
It's super easy. You just need to do good prompt engineering. So you can infuse character into these AI models with your prompts, with your system messages. And so in this example, I'm setting everything up in the prompt, in the system prompt. I'm saying you're an in-game NPC. Your tone is gruff and terse.
The gruff and terse one, I told you guys.
That's right. Your role is you're a bartender in a seedy bar called Midnight Tavern. The main character is investigating a murder. I'm giving some plot, right? And so I'm embedding all of this into the system prompt. You can even infuse data if you want to put more backstory into it. But I'm saying a few specific things, like don't answer his questions unless he bribes you, right? I'm giving character to this particular NPC. If he offers a bribe less than $100, throw the main character out of the bar, right? And so really it's setting up prompts and prompt engineering, and you can truly infuse character into these NPCs. And so if we go through and we start a dialogue with this AI, I come into the bar and I say, what do you want? And he says, oh, I'll have a bourbon, sure thing, pours me a bourbon, slides it to me, and then I start interacting with it as you would in a game. And so we've seen a bunch of text-based games using Gen AI to create dialogue. The cool thing about this is it's also useful for early stage of game development when you don't have a full narrative tree, right? And you just kind of want to do some white box testing with your characters running around and kind of, just having some dialogue. This is useful for that. And so, we've got a story. I slip him $100, and then the character responds as I told them to with the system prompt. So just an easy way to set up NPCs. And then if I wanted to actually have this, be called by my game, I would click on View Code, and then I can infuse this into my game.
Yeah. And it's such a simple demo. He did that in seconds in a scenario, but think about how impactful this is going to be, right? Games and game teams spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for scratch audio scenarios. Obviously, writing, creating characters and character development. You're going to be able to have the chance to really complement, give this in the hands of a narrator or a narration writer, and help them get creative, help them impact their job in the industry. It's really exciting opportunities to save a lot of money and time and effort, and hopefully get started. It's cool.
Last one.
Sweet.
Last one. Let's take a look at game analytics with AI. And so really just what I want to show you, games collect tons of telemetry, player telemetry, server telemetry, who's using our game at one time, who's connecting to these different services. And so I wanted to show you a quick demo of using Power BI Copilot connected to Azure Fabric to spin out, to generate very, very useful reports against player telemetry data. And so, here I've connected to a data source. It's got my player telemetry data. And I'm just going to prompt this. I'm going to say, hey, create a user analysis report. This is the structure of the data. This is the back-end database, right? And since I'm using Power BI Copilot, it knows about this. It can infer everything, and it's going to generate reports for me. It gives me a few different report options. One option is a platform usage overview. So Boom, based on the data, it was able to, based on my prompt, generate a user platform, a really powerful user platform analysis report for me. And so I can kind of click through, see the different platforms that users are using to access my game, drill into user information as well there. So there's a couple different reports that this then goes on to create, but we can click through the different slicers to pull out the different data for this user retention analysis report. I can then ask it to summarize this, summarize churn by platform, and it's going to automatically generate a churn report for me as well, right? So you can use Power BI Copilot connected to Azure Fabric and then just use Gen AI to create these very useful reports, based on usage of your game services and applications, right? So,
one quick note on that. I think that's an important one. I think you're showing that in the Power BI Copilot, Power BI dashboard, but take that one step higher. Everyone knows, I think most of y'all are aware of Fabric, our end-to-end SaaS kind of analytics platform. We announced it last year, and super relevant in the game space. I think actually not just the game space, pretty much everywhere. But in the game space, data is everywhere. There's AWS and S3 buckets. There's Google and BigQuery and GCP. There's Snowflake. The opportunity to mirror that data over to Fabric and use Fabric for kind of end-to-end analytics with all the real-time intelligence and other tools that are built in is a really, really unique opportunity. It's changing things a little bit.
Rock and roll. You want to take us away?
Yeah, we'll wrap early. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much it for us. Again, Jon Kefaloukos, Dan Gartner, we're on the gaming team here. Really appreciate y'all coming out and checking out the session. Any feedback would be appreciated. We, of course, want more and more gaming content. If this is helpful, please do submit a survey form. But we'll be sticking around if you guys have questions for us. Happy to answer any questions. And again, a massive, massive thank you to everyone for coming out. Really appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.